Real questions, real answers for real life. Come on in and pull up a chair. You're at 1850 Main Street with Michael DelGiorno and David Zanotti.
Could gambling ruin sports? Has it ruined sports already?
Well, for once, opening day of baseball, March Madness Sweet 16, Masters on the horizon, sports for a change is center stage.
Yeah, sports and that other thing, sports wagering. All right, let's set the stage. It's right before Masters Week, the time where you roll out movies like Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, Tin Cup, Greatest Game Ever Played, The Jerk. No, not The Jerk. The Caddy. I threw The Jerk in there, and I usually watch that whenever I can. All right, The Caddy with Jerry Lewis. All the great golf movies. All the great golf movies. And probably one of the greatest lines in any of those movies is in Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, where the reporter for the Atlanta newspaper is at the bar, and they're having this big conversation about Bobby Jones, and he hauls off, and the reporter hauls off and slugs the guy for criticizing Jones for staying as an amateur. In the film, they call him an amateur. All right. And after the fight's over, the reporter looks at the crowd and says, money's going to ruin sports. Money's going to ruin sports. Well, I think he was right.
It was a great line in Any Given Sunday, too, which I know has some rough language and some rough content. But unfortunately, for the Hunger Games view we have of the NFL, it may be the most accurate view. And the late Jim Brown is talking with the coach, Al Pacino, and he says, high school, it's the only thing pure. And even at that point, they were sensing NFL was ruined. College football has even been ruined. And that movie, precedes NIL, portals, and let alone the widespread sports gaming that has taken place. And you see how the portal has ruined college football. You see how name, image, and likeness, all these things they drove Nick Saban right out of the game. And so, but nobody ever wants to put their finger on what gambling has done to college sports, to all sports. And even we saw a great op-ed piece this week, and it'll tell you all the dirty, ugly truth, but nobody wants to, we all want to describe the water we're drowning in or describe the train wreck that is happening, but nobody wants to stop the train.
Yeah, nobody wants to take it on. So how did it happen? This is a part of a plot. This is a conspiracy in plain sight. Not only is it in plain sight, it's documented, and it was handed out to everyone in 1994. This is hilarious. In 1994, the leading lawyer for the gambling industry out of Las Vegas published a paper called Gambling's Third Wave. Now, this guy's not only a lawyer for the gambling industry, he's a professor of law, and he specializes in gambling. This guy is completely in the tank as far as you can go for the gambling industry. He's their legal mind. He writes a paper called Gambling's Third Wave, and here's the premise. Gambling goes in waves. It starts with being illegal, then it becomes a little legal, then it becomes sort of legal, then it becomes legal a lot, then it becomes legal everywhere. Then people rise up and say, this is really stupid, and they outlaw it. And then it comes back, and it does the same thing again. He tracks it through history, how gambling started that way in colonial America, got wiped out, then came back, got wiped out, and we're now in gambling's third wave. So he said, what's the third wave going to look like? This was 94. He said it's going to look like gambling everywhere, all the time, no matter what, and see where the technology will take you. Now, 94, this is before we've got convenience casinos. This is just at the beginning.
Before smartphones, right?
Yes, before smartphones, but this is just at the beginning of the fake, phony riverboats trying to put a riverboat out there on the Mississippi and call it a riverboat. It doesn't go anywhere. It's a boat to nowhere, but it's a gambling facility where they just started nibbling at the idea of getting out of Atlantic City and getting out of Vegas. Well, they went through that whole run with casinos, and then they went to racetrack casinos. Then they went to all kinds of cross hybrids until we got to the place of sports wagering, which is where they always wanted to be.
And I want to add, before we even get to that, at least then, and I want you to think of it as two sides of a coin, at least then they could make the argument, and look at all the jobs at the hotels, at the casinos, shuttling people from the airport. Well, that's gone. Or look at the experience you're getting. You're staying in a great room. You're getting free drinks. You're getting free food. I mean, at least you got something for it. And so I think we had governors who thought, well, we'll take a stand against the casinos themselves. That isn't even what they wanted. Now you've given them a product they don't have to pay for at all, 24/7, 365 days a week. You don't have to go anywhere. No more do you have to find days off and travel all the way to Tunica or all the way to Vegas or all the way to Atlantic City. You can sit in your house. I've seen my nephew betting cricket in the middle of the night taking place in India.
Wow.
All right. So, but what's really scary is that I don't know why some people can have a cigarette and then not have one for 2 years. Some people are a puff away from 2 packs a day. There's just something, everybody's different. But nobody ever explores with gambling. Some people can gamble, have a good time, and not think about it or do it again. But many fall under a path towards problem gaming, where they won't stop until they've lost everything. Then you have pathological gamers who then won't stop there. They will steal to have money to keep gambling. And this is all taking place on the living room couch. Somebody could be sitting there losing the mortgage and all the Christmas money right next to their wife, and she doesn't even know it.
Yeah, she thinks he's checking his email. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so stealth. It's so sinister. It's so everywhere. There is no economic benefit. I mean, who's getting rich? And we know that most Americans are one paycheck away from collapse.
All right, let's deconstruct this, though, because you've piled on a bunch of really important points. First, let's peel off the question of who's at risk of being addicted. Well, first off, gambling, you can't see. Drinking, you can smell and see. Drugs, you can see. You can't see gambling. You can't see a gambling addict, and you can't see a gambling addict coming. What's the profile? They're everywhere. They're male. They're female. They're usually up and outers. They're usually very successful people in other fields that look for the adrenaline rush of being able to command data and make decisions and have instant rewards. This is not a game that's played under a bridge. This is happening everywhere.
Well, and I battled when I was very young with this, and it wasn't until I connected the dots. Wait a minute. I'm an athlete who doesn't have the physical ability to compete anymore. I'm trying to compete. Yes. I'm trying to be on these teams.
You want to be back in the game.
It's got me back in the game. Once I understood that, I never did again.
Yeah.
But
you're really good at stuff like that.
Yeah, but for as many people out there, there's as many reasons. The point is, we know what the wagering amounts are, and we know what the losses are, and we know the impact on communities. And I don't think the brilliant thing that I love that you always bring up is this is their hour. This is what they were playing for decades.
The whole time. This was their moment.
And how do you stop this?
Okay, so here's the other piece now. Let's talk about the gambling addicts. When we were at baseline with the expansion of casino gambling, the industry readily admitted that roughly 3-4% were already hardcore pathological gamblers, with a trend moving between 5 and 7 as the population potential. Now, you stop to think if that were to hit, if 7% of the population, 7% of and see, I can't say adults anymore because anybody that's got a phone can get jammed on this. Now, 7% of the population, and we're talking about pathological gamblers. These people will gamble until they have nothing left, get more until they have that not left, and literally be facing jail.
I had a very dear friend who had a very successful, had a beautiful young wife, 2 beautiful young children, a very successful job, was making high 6 figures. The casinos came in Oklahoma. He couldn't stop, lost all of their money. Then he began to steal money from the company. He ended up in jail.
Yeah.
That's pathological. Problem is cash advances, all your credit cards are racked up. Then, what's the number one cause of divorce? Financial stress, family in ruins, and all the while, who's making money?
It's like a hurricane that hits. It's a disaster. So the potential for more addiction is only rising. No one's dealing with that because no one ever projected gambling everywhere in everybody's back pocket on a cell phone device.
When it was casinos, it was 30% were problem gamblers, and that equaled $3,800. Every problem gambler costs every taxpayer $3,800. Can you imagine what it is today now with all this?
When you subscribe to 1850 Main Street, you're the first to find out what's happening next with new guests, publications, and events. And when you spread the word about 1850 Main Street, you're helping others find real answers to the real questions facing America right now. To learn more, visit 1850mainstreet.com. And please, tell a friend.
The second thing that no one is talking about is that the gambling on your phone has brought casino gambling on your phone as well.
Oh, yeah.
So they've rolled the whole thing in. So let's look at the genius of the gambling industry. They don't have any more brick and mortar costs. They don't have to create machines to do products. The product that they're actually utilizing is everybody else's product, whether it's a college football game, whether it's the Final Four in the NCAA men's basketball, whether it's minor league games, whether it's major league games, whether it's golf, whether it's cricket in India. Everybody else is producing the product. They're just managing the software. They're simply managing the software and draining the money out of your pocket. It is we say there is no better business than a casino except for printing money. This methodology beats printing money. It's even better. So they have succeeded with the technology of now making every home a potential victim of their technologies, of their methodologies, of their way of draining. And are there any jobs? Of course there's no jobs, but it's even worse. For years they told us, you got to do it because everybody else is doing it and you're losing money because it's going to another state. It's going to your neighbors. Guess what? There's no more advantage for the state. The money's all going to the electronic companies. Now, sure, they cut the states in, they cut the politicians in, they throw them a bone. But here's where it gets really ugly, Michael. They have so much power in the state legislatures now that people are afraid to stand up and say anything.
Well, you think the media is going to do any investigative reporting? You think the media is going to tell you any stories of destroyed families or the crime that has resulted in it?
And why not?
No, of course not. Because they're number one advertiser. Can you
Bingo.
watch any show without boom? Hey, here's a no sweat bet. It's perfect for them.
It's a total syndicate.
It's terrible for the family. It's terrible for the collective economy. What's it doing to the actual sports themselves?
Wall Street Journal this week. Great story, an NBA player. I will leave him nameless. NBA player who said, I am now a prop. What does he mean? He's now the victim of prop betting. What's a prop bet? Prop better says this guy, let's say number 24. Number 24.
He'll score more than 16 points.
Boom, bing. He'll score more than 16 in this quarter. He'll score more than 16 in the next 5 minutes. All right. Everybody becomes a prop bet. So you're out there playing basketball, something that you spent your whole life to develop. And you know what you are? You're just a prop bet to everybody who's watching.
Not a hero. By the way, remember our heroes when we were kids? Remember what our walls looked like in our
Mickey
teenage
Mantle,
bedrooms?
Roger Maris. I mean, come on.
Jim Brown only runs for 200 yards and costs you $500. You hate him.
Yeah.
Never mind.
The idea of building sporting clubs for a community and a city to represent them and to bring people in, and then you compete among regions and you compete on a national level. All that stuff is thrown completely. I mean, we're betting on swimming, for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah. But think about this. We used to root for our team, whether it was going to the Superdome to see the Saints, whether it was going to the Dog Pound to see the Cleveland Browns. Now nobody's rooting for it. They're just rooting for their bet. And by the way, there's some people don't even want to go to a game anymore or watch a single game. Now I gotta watch NFL Red Zone. It's first of all, it's catered to me because it's got running tallies on all my prop bets. Mm-hmm. Who's the receiving leaders, who's the rushing leader, what passing yardage is people getting. I'm watching multiple games to cover, am I getting the under? Am I getting the over? Is my team covering the spread? At the end of the day, there's no loyalty to the NFL or to any NFL teams or to any players. You know what, David? They don't realize it yet. Maybe that one player is the smart one. They're all props. And so what's going to be in it for the NFL when this is all said and done?
And where is this all going? Well, first off,
I remember when you used to say it's going to destroy sports, and everybody would act like you were a nut for saying it.
yeah, well, we've been on this since 1988. And Michael, I hate to, I'm sorry to say, every single thing we've warned is going to happen. And we didn't make this stuff up. We gathered the data from all kinds of experts. And every time that we were able to present a solid economic case, a logical, predictable case that said, this is what's going to happen to you. They will not create the jobs that you say. They will drive this number many businesses out. They will create this many addicts. They will destroy your civil government. You won't be able to find an honest politician that has the guts to stand up to these people anywhere. You know what they all told us? You're just hysterical about this. Too big a deal. It's going to be just fine. Now you got people on the NBA saying, I don't even want to play basketball anymore. I feel that my life's at risk if I miss that basket. If I miss a basket, I can't win. Somebody said, I missed the basket. Somebody celebrated because I made it. I can't win no matter what I do.
I got to cut to the chase because that one article, that op-ed piece that was so brilliant, it addresses Pandora's being out of the box. The toothpaste is out of the tube. But nobody knows how to put her back in the box or how to get the toothpaste back in. I mean, David,
we've got a couple ideas.
Okay.
There's actually some ways to do this. Number one, and I won't rate these as far as order of priority and how hard they're going to be. Let's just throw them out there. Number one, we can actually find some people who've got the courage in state legislatures to say, this is ridiculous. We're not going to let colleges that we pay for, state universities, we're not going to let the state university that we pay for and underwrite with taxpayer dollars be a part of this, period, end of conversation. You can't bet on UT. You can't bet on OSU.
And what do you think the gaming money would do next election cycle?
There you go. So you got to find enough people in the state. Now, the nice thing about state lawmakers is they don't make enough money that losing their job changes their world. They could actually take these people on. And we could keep them in office if we could find them and we could encourage them and make it work. So that's one thing. You can change the laws, and it's got to be changed at the state level. You could begin to zone these people out. That's one thing. Secondly, liability. Liability is always the way to take down the corporate bullies. Took down big tobacco. It will take down big marijuana because big marijuana is going to become big tobacco. Just watch that. Just watch a little longer. And then liability will come into play. And then you've got tort. You have the potential of suing for damages. Now, then there's one other thing that's going to happen, and that's scandal. And that's already beginning to happen.
Yeah, that's ticking like a time bomb.
It is a time bomb, and it is going to be nuclear. It is going to continue to blow up and blow up and blow up. And you're going to see some of the ugliest stories you could ever imagine. And I'm so sorry to be the person saying this out loud. You're going to see ruined lives. You may even see dead bodies. Because people are going to be so hooked on this and so trapped by this that it's not like taking a dive in a prize fight. It's like driving off a bridge.
And be an attorney on this one because it's a blast. You've got somebody, this person had a problem and you're sending them emails.
Yep.
You're sending them paper mail. You're giving them $200, in a free bet. Oh, and meanwhile, he's destroying his family and then kills himself. All right, that's going to be there's going to be a case. So I can't believe there hasn't been one already.
Somebody's going to sue these no good so-and-sos into the stratosphere, and the sooner the better. Now, the question is, are there any lawyers out there that are willing to say, wait a second, I'm sorry that greed is a factor in this, but wait a second. There's a lot of money to be made taking the money back. There's a lot of opportunity here. Where are the lawyers? All right, where are all those guys on those billboards all over the place? All right, why doesn't Morgan and Morgan and all the rest of them say, hey, wait a second, this is a growth industry right here. Plus, it'd free up more ad space for us.
And you brought up big tobacco. That's a great example. Right now, there is no warning on the pack, if you will. But at some point, they're getting away with right now with just every now and then, problem gambling, call 1-800-888-888 or whatever. But somebody's going to make a determination. That's not enough.
Yeah.
You can't have ads. You can't be on television. That could disrupt the model.
Yeah,
tremendously.
There's these people the bully is beatable. Now, in the meantime, I got to tell you, this is a spiritual problem because you've seen it. I've seen it. This destroys lives. This destroys homes and families. And we have to speak out and warn people, and we have to do a lot of praying that God will deliver us from evil and deliver us from bondage. We're doing this to ourselves. We're doing this to ourselves. We're destroying ourselves, and let alone destroying one of the most beautiful expressions of a free society built on human respect, which is athletic competition.
Well, you know what that meant to both of us growing up, the love of the game, what the game teaches you. I think I have used all the lessons that I learned at 8, 9, 10, 11. And I use them throughout life. And I don't know that anybody would ever go back through. Do you ever get your little Social Security thing that comes once a year? It is fun to look at, and I look at it and I go all the way back to like 1983. Oh my gosh, look, there's $2,600. I remember that. I was a bank teller for 3 months. I mean, I can go through it. It's my whole life.
Mine goes back to when I was 14 years old.
Does that show up on your Social Security?
Yep. I had paychecks when I was 14 years old.
They were texting you at 14, taxing you at 14. But, but I look back and I think of all the things. I wonder if somebody could put a dollar value on how I use sports to become an unbeatable program director in the radio industry or a senior vice president in the radio industry. But it was the purity of the game. It was the love of the game, the love of the teams, the love of the players, the role models of the player. That's all gone. They're all a prop. I mean, that is really, there's a whole generation growing up that doesn't have any of that. They don't even play Little League anymore. They're playing they graduate from video games to video gaming. What a tragedy.
I can say this in this format without any sense of apology. We need to pray. We need to pray for deliverance because we're literally watching. I mean, there is a rising tide and you're going to start to see neighbors and friends disappearing and not coming back. We got to pray. God will wake us up and enable us and help us to find the strength and the courage to stand against this.
Does it get uglier than what technology has done to bring the darkest pornography into our homes, or gaming that can be 24 hours a day, 365 days a week? That could be. I always get that image. It's horrifying to me. The fact that a guy could be sitting right next to his wife while she's watching,
losing the family fortune. Yep, in 10 minutes. Yeah,
and there's nothing to help them.
Well,
I thought you brought up some good suggestions. The question is, we don't fail in life because we don't know what to do. We fail in life because we don't have the courage to do what we know. Maybe prayer is the first spot.
And let me tell you part of the reason why I think that prayer is the first spot. In addition, first off, because we got to repent because all this has happened on our watch and we've let it happen. Now, we've been fighting this since 1988, but I will tell you that we got sold down the river. We were winning in the Midwest dramatically until the Republican Party became the party of gambling. When they put Steve Wynn as their national treasurer and Adelson became their biggest donor, the Republican Party took a walk and they just went the other direction. Whatever happens, happens. We've seen, look, Bill Lee in Tennessee made massive mistakes in the way he handled this policy. We sent him gambling's third wave. I was in constant conversation, documented with his people, explaining to them they were being set up. They sent me some of the dumbest things I've ever heard coming back.
No, it was condescending.
It was
patronizing.
Unbelievable how they got completely handled on this issue. Now, it was very early in his first political job. And I'm not just saying that there's condemnation and no forgiveness for anybody. Anybody can get caught on the wrong side of this thing. The question is, do you stay on the wrong side? And DeSantis in Florida has been peddling around this thing, trying to not make it illegal, sports wagering, sort of putting it off into the tribal compacts. Every governor in the state, no matter how good they are, how godly they claim to be, is wrestling with this issue. Somebody's got to stand up and say, hey, we don't have to do this. Because the only people that are benefiting from this is the gambling industry.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.